inspection on SY08LPX. This is a Mini Clubman Cooper S made to look like a club van, quite interestingly. Been lowered front and rear. First thing I do is check the oil. Sticks are very difficult to read, so what I do is I dip it, clean it, and then dip it again and put it onto some absorbent cloth, and you can actually see that the oil level is good. See oil contamination on the O2 sensor plug there. That can soak through and contaminate the pins. I'll have a look at that in a minute. This intake pipe isn't on all the way, really, should be further on. It is quite secure though. We do have some oil leaks around the top of the rock cover here, so I'll look at those in a bit more detail in a minute. Split the plug for the O2 sensor, and in there we're just getting a small amount of contamination. I'll clean this off, and I'll clean this off, but to keep an eye on that. Looking at the wheels and tyres now, before we do, you've got a slight rust patch on there. Driver's wheel spins quite freely. We have a non-run flat tyre in very good condition. It's a Kumo even, and it was made in the 50th week of 2020. That's in good condition. Looking at the pads there, looking at the brake pads there, they're in very good condition, nearly new. Discs have got some lipping on and some rust on the outer edge. So, driver's side disc is lipped quite badly on the inside of the disc there, and compare that to the other side, not nearly as much. So we've got possibly the pads have been put on the wrong way around, or something's happening there. The passenger front tyre is a matching Kumo from the same date. Very good trace. In fact, that's practically new. The tread on that is almost brand new. Wheels in very good condition, and again on the brake pad, that's practically new there as well, and no bind, so that spins actually a bit better than the driver's side. Looking at the rear, it looks like all these tyres are changed at the same time, because that's another Kumo from 50th week of 2020. Wheel spins nicely. There's very good meat on that brake pad there. Driver's side rear, another a Kumo from the same date stamp. Wheel spins freely and lots of meat on those pads. It's from the diagnostic scans. Let's have a look. I'll print this out for you anyway. So we have a junction box, seat heating error on the driver's side, instrument cluster, power supply switched off, no message from alternator, and intake manifold unmetered air. So we've got a leak on the air system on the intake. So I've just cleared all the faults and they've all gone for now. Need to try and find that air leak though. Anything, but these cars are in apart. The bolts they're all wrong. That should be a 10mm head. That should be a 10mm, not a 13. These should be crosshead. These should be mushroom pressure fixings, and these are somehow crosshead. That's missing there. And in fact, that's missing there as well. It's just a self-tapper. So the front's been off, and whoever put it back didn't put the right bolts in the right places. Fairly minor, I would say. But looks like you've got all your fixings on your headlights, which is unusual for a car this age, which is good. The headlights have got some fading. They will polish up. That one's not too bad. The wheel arch lining in here is being shredded, and it's mostly not there at the front. Around the back there, it's fine. On the driver's side, it's not fixed properly, and we're missing a shield from inside there. So that could do with some fixings. We have a little bit of a parking scar on that trim there. Going under the car now. There's a lot of rust I've seen on this car. So the subframe is incredibly rusty all the way down, both sides. Okay, all the way down. So subframe would benefit from being dropped, either powder coated or hammer-righted or something. On here, these clips are rusting through, and may cause problems in the future if they go. And also this hasn't been secured. I mean, it's secure, right? It's not going to come down, but these clips aren't doing anything. So yeah, just rust everywhere. Minor oil leak around the sump. Not too bad there. The big one on these cars is normally up there, and that's actually fairly dry. Certainly seen a lot worse. And then, yeah, quite wet at the back here. It's probably the sump itself is leaking or oozing. Actually, it's not the worst I've seen, but it is nonetheless. Coming down here, again, rust. This is stainless steel, this exhaust, so there's not surface rust, but it should be good. This rear subframe is also incredibly rusty, and that's hard to get to, as you might imagine. So yeah, you've got a lot of surface rust there. Otherwise though, things are fairly secure. Under trays are fitted there, but not here. And that could be from factory. We've got a fair amount of rust, surface rust coming on the inner sills here. Not so much on this side. Well, it's actually worse there, to be honest. So that's the underside. Plus, got the flexi. That flexi is starting to go. You can see the white that is moving. That will be a MOT failure probably next year. I've checked all your CV boots. They're all in good condition. Your springs and shocks look all fairly recent. They're all Spax adjustables. Checking these rear bushes. They're not dead, but there's a fair amount of play in them. They should be stiffer than that. Let's have a look at this one. That one's about, yeah, so there's cracking. You've got the camera in there. There's radial cracking on that bush. So that bush is towards the end of its life. Before we take the rock cover off and look at the cam chain, there's a couple of things I want to point out. So one is we've got a unmetered air problem. Now that could be that this has come off at some point and is now back on. It could be that there's a crack. Sometimes you get cracks in these areas here, but that actually looks quite good. The way to test it is to have the engine running and just lift that up, see if it sucks back. If it doesn't suck back, we've got an air leak under the rock cover. While we're here, I want to point this out. That is in poor condition. There's a rubber seal in there and it's not doing its job anymore. You're going to lose oil. That's the oil feed to the turbo. Just checking the coolant level's good, and it does look clean, even though there is some old contamination in there. I think at some point this car's had a blown head gasket. So engine running. That is sucking down. Seems okay. Rocker cover off, chain's brand new. That's good to see. Thing is though, somebody's used silicone sealant to fix. So I don't like this stuff, I never use it, but someone's used silicone sealant on here, so it may not go back properly. We'll do our best. It's horrible stuff. The gasket is new, so you don't need silicone. It just gets in the way. But the gasket's new, it's nice and soft, so we should be okay. The thing worth noting is that there's no oil down any of these bores, which also means that the gasket's doing its job. So compression test on number 1 cylinder. That's 200. That's 200 on number 2 cylinder. That's 200 number 3. And number 4 is, there's 200 and a bit. So you've got a good compression across the range. So in summary then, very nice condition Cooper S, made to look like a club van. Quite a lot of rust on the subframes. Maybe you should look at that. If you do drop the subframe and get it cleaned off or powder coated or painted, change the bushes while you're there. The oil feed pipe going into turbo, that does need changing. I suggest some new discs and pads on the front as well. There is a minor oil leak around the sump. It's not terrible, I've seen much worse. Mostly you get oil leaks on the oil filter housing on this car. It seems to be good in that area. But if you want to have the the oil leak fixed on the sump, we can drop the sump and reseal that. I would say replace the front left wheel arch liner and secure the front right wheel arch liner. It's fairly minor, but I would do that. While you're at it, I would secure the hose, the coolant hose at the bottom, and change those rusty clips. If they rust through, you might lose coolant and then the car will overheat. So that's a good preventative thing to do. I think that's about it. I would just keep an eye on those error codes if anything comes back, the alternator one, for example, or the air leak. But that's it for now. Thanks for watching.